I went out on a sales call that day, and I saw a copy of the Detroit News, and I read the story on August 17th, 1993. And I was in line at the party store right across from McDonald's down by Henry Ford Hospital. Mm-hmm. And it was like I was reading in the newspaper what I had dreamt about hours earlier. Of course, this was unsettling.
Mm-hmm. And this is a story you read about a young boy who had been somehow murdered.
Reuben Elder.
Mm-hmm.
During the time that I had been dreaming in Holland Park, Reuben Elder, 11 years old, was been shot to death. And when I read the article in the paper and went back to my dream, when I left the office, I had my secretary type it up. And so when I saw this in the paper, I went back to the office and read what she had typed up and just went back into the dream. And then I called the Detroit News and I talked to Luther Keith, mm-hmm. and told him what I had dreamt about and how it was so much like deja vu reading that article in the paper. And he said, would you fax it across to me? Mm. And I did, and he called me back about 10 minutes later and asked if he could print it in the paper.
So that was your first flash of being a published author at that point, right?
Yeah, I didn't realize it, but it was.
I find that fascinating, Mojo, that you had not even thought about writing it as poetry, not even thought about writing it. It really gives us pause to think about the controlling hand of a higher power kind of guiding both you and perhaps the spirit of this young child together.
It was definitely the controlling hands of a higher power, and it was a book that passed through me as opposed to coming from me. Mm-hmm. I suppose if I had known that it could come from me, I probably would have done a few turntables in college. Would have subsequently done better.
If I'd known I could write, I would have written something. Well, tell me now, how long did it take you? I want to talk when we come back from the break. I have to break in a few minutes because I know that this project was one that you talked about or thought about going outside, going to one of the big publishing houses and saying, here's this idea, will you do it? And I know you got a few doors slammed in your face from people who said it's never going to happen, that this can't possibly come together.
Well, I only talked to one publisher, and I talked to him about 2 minutes. And after the conversation, I thanked him very much. And, I knew that it was something that I had never done, but something that I would have to subsequently do, guided by the same light that impelled the book to come through me.
Was he less than encouraging, or was he just kind of hard-lined about the whole thing?
Well, basically what he said, I told him the title had to be The Mental Machine. And I told him about why the book was written and the poems and the preludes to each poem and illustrations for each poem. And he said that he didn't think it was a market for a book like that. And he said that even if, he decided to publish the book, there would be no guarantee that the name of the book would be The Mental Machine. Mm-hmm. And I told him, thank you for your time.
Nice chatting with you.
Appreciate your time.
Gotta go. So what was your next step? After learning that, how did you begin the process of putting this together?
Miss Rhonda English, my secretary at that time, every day I was giving her scribbled notes to type up and to fashion into some type of poetic-looking structure. Mm-hmm. And that process continued. And then I eventually ran into Miss Robin Young, and she asked me, did I have an editor? And at that time, I wasn't quite sure what she was talking about, and I told her it had already been typed.
Thank you anyway.
And she showed me what she could do as an editor. Well, prior to that, I told her that we'd worked out a deal where she'd do it for me.
Right.
That soon changed.
Oh,
that changed after the first week. after I realized the enormity of the project and what it would involve, I said, well, look, why don't we sit down and work out a real deal? Because when you asked me at first, I didn't realize that I really needed one. And so here we go. And she became the mother of the mental machine. And she got it into book form. And then I ran into the Word Source, a typesetting service out of Redford, and they said they'd always wanted to do a book.
Really?
And I told them, well, I need to do one.
We got a lot in common. When we come back, perhaps, as they used to say in the old Sunday get-togethers, the tea circles, perhaps Mr. Mojo will favor us with a reading. 1:30 is our News Talk Radio time, ladies and gentlemen. The Mental Machine, the name of the book, The Electrifying Mojo. My guest in this segment, join us. Area code 313-729-9242, the Jim McFarlin radio program. And this is AM 1200, WCHB.
Talk Radio, WCHB. It's time for the big payback.
The Michigan Lottery has a new way to win called the Daily 3 Big Payback Second Chance Sweepstakes. Now until April 29th, take your non-winning Daily 3
on Sunday from 10 to 11 a.m. Tune in, and I promise you'll hear another provocative discussion on issues that are important to you here on AM 1200 WCHB News Talk Radio.
At 1:34, that's your News Talk Radio time, ladies and gentlemen, on this absolutely flat, rascal, gorgeous Saturday afternoon. March 10th, is it yesterday? It's the 11th. My goodness, how time flies when you're having fun. My guest in this segment, ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, the electrifying Mojo. Now, it can be legitimately said, a published author, Mojo, with his new book, The Mental Machine. And I've said it before, folks, but just to say it again in his presence, I've been privileged over the years to see so many, virtually thousands of books come right out of the big New York publishing houses right onto my desk, and to look at them and to admire them. This book is clearly the equal, and I think the superior of anything I've seen, just in terms of its, I mean, this is nice. This is no, back alley, behind the corner, around the alley kind of. This is a very, very well published, a very handsome volume, and has so much to say. And we're talking, folks, over 500 pages. So, once Mojo starts thinking, he has a lot to say. But we were talking during the break about, once the idea for the book came out, how the distribution was going to happen. And I know this book is right now in stores all over town, right?
Well, yeah, well, people had asked me about that, and one thing I can say about this book, at every junction, what I needed to go to the next phase, it came to me as opposed to me coming to it. Like when I met Robin Young, who's the editor of the book, she came to me. Like when I found the illustrators, and I have met 4 dynamic young illustrators, Karen Sims, Victor Faith, Mike Cooper, Ibrahim, Mr. Mose McKinley, Sandy Buns, things that were just there.
Their works are all in this book.
Right. Okay. And when I needed to go and get the book typeset, I just literally ran into the people that, and I think they did a magnificent job, the Word Source. And when I got ready to get the book printed, because I wanted the book embossed, I wanted foil stamping on it. I didn't want a paperback, and I didn't want a hardback.
You wanted something in between.
Yeah, I wanted like a 21st century lightback.
All right.
And I wanted the weight to be in the words,
not in the book,
not necessarily in the book. And basically, as a disc jockey on the radio, I'd always been concerned with what's happening, in the streets of our city and in this country, because as you know, in 1994, 40,000 people were shot to death in this country. About 80% of these were young African-American males. A genocidal wave is gripping this country from north to south, from east to west, and from all over the metro area. I realized that with a book, you can't right every wrong, but you can begin to reverse some obvious adversities that people are facing.
Mm-hmm.
And this book, it's a book about the problems, yes, but it's also a book about the solutions. It's a book about the pestilence, but it's also a book about hopeful things that we could do, some things that we could reach out and grab to pull ourselves out of the abyss. It's a book about enriching the spiritual side of you, the cultural side of you, the emotional side, because a long time ago in this country, and some things that maybe you've experienced, but I know many people have, I grew up in a town where I was sure that we were rich. I mean, I was sure that we were very well off. And when I moved to Little Rock, Arkansas from Stuttgart, Arkansas, I found out then that they said, well, you guys were poor.
And what a shock that must have been.
Oh, what? I said, no, I wasn't poor. But because I'd always equated wealth as something internal, something you have in your spirit and your character, you know, in your culture, and the way you look at the world and the way you look at other people, you know, the richness of your thoughts. And then, to my shock, other people looked at it as being how much money you had.
Right, material thing. I'm wondering. Oh, I'm telling him this.
Okay.
I went over there and he stopped. I said, no, I wasn't stopping you. I'm sorry. I got to clip you to the AM hand signals around here. But without meaning to, I hope this doesn't embarrass you with speaking.
No.
Well, you had to put up a lot of the money to do this on your own.
Yeah, well, I had to put up all of the money. And frankly, if I get it back, I get it back. If I don't get it back, I don't get it back. I'm more interested in people reading the book. And if they buy the book, that's up to them. But I do want them to read it. And when people buy the book, I encourage them to pass the book on to someone who might really need it. I've given away probably more than I'll sell.
Well, I'm looking at it. It's $24.95 in the U.S., $29.95 in Canada. And we can, you've been on some book signings already around the area, have you not?
Yeah, I've been at Heavenly Bookstore, 9 Mile in Greenfield. I was at Barnes & Noble this past Saturday on Orchard Lake.
And did you ever think, tell the truth, that you'd be sitting in a Barnes & Noble with a line of folks holding your book and saying, make this one out to Gladys? I mean, did you ever think that in your life experience that would ever happen?
Never. Well, I never did term papers. So, and I wrote very few letters. I'm a child of the telephone. But, one thing I have to say with the Barnes & Noble experience, I talked to a Mary at Barnes & Noble, and she set me up a book signing, as a matter of fact, on the 11th. And she called me back, and she said, well, the signing, we had to cancel the signing for the 11th. And she said, but let me tell you why. She said, we want to move it to the 4th of March. She said, and the reason why we want to do this is that we're having a full-page ad in the Detroit News, and we want to feature your book in the full-page ad in the Detroit News and let everyone know that you'll be here tomorrow night. And
of course you said, I'll think about it.
I said, well, I might be, I said, I'll be there. But this is the 11th tonight, and I'll be at Truth Bookstore tonight which is the 11th, in Northland.
In Northland, you'll be in Northland at Truth Bookstore signing this book.
Right, at 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock. All right, we can get you out of here pretty quick. Let's go to the phones. Well, I don't want to hold you now because the lines are forming. The lines are forming right now. Once you said that, they're driving to Northland right now, getting ready for you. Let's go to the phone. Say hello to Lynn on the west side. Lynn, hi, you're on with Mojo and Jim McFarlin. Good afternoon.
Hello, how are you all doing?
Hello, Lynn.
Yes, Mojo, this is your old friend who's at Wham. I don't know who you remember me or not. I remember you. How are you doing?
Well, hello, Lynn. How you doing?
I'm doing
well.
good.
If you mention Wham, I know we go back. If you haven't told anybody how far, I won't mention it.
No, Mr. Johnson.
Okay.
So are you giving away any books to your friends?
Well, you know what?
Lynn's falling on some hard times since when you can give the book.
I've given away thousands, and because the book is both an audio book and it's also it's a light hardback, 21st century light hardback.
And let me ask you quickly, Mojo, is the audio cassette an exact duplicate of the book? If you get the cassette, will you hear everything that is contained in the book, or is it kind of abridged?
Right. Well, the audio is volume 1, which is the Mental Machine, but volume 2, which is Stop By Here, Lord, Stop By Here, and Freedom Comes Today. That's not on audio yet.
Okay.
Are you still in the Detroit area?
Right. I'm still in the Detroit area, and I'm a Detroiter now. This is where I call home.
Are you married?
Well, are you interested in getting married?
No, not no more.
Not anymore.
Doesn't hold the same appeal at this point in your life, huh? Well, Linda's getting on your business.
I was just wondering. I hadn't heard, from you in so long. I was wondering, were you married, have any children? Just that.
No children.
Oh, that's wonderful. But what about, where can I pick up a book?
You can pick up a book at Truth Bookstore tonight. As a matter of fact, I'll be there signing books.
Truth Bookstore?
It's in Northland. It's next to Holland Custom Framing, right around the corner from J.C. Penney's. And we're going to send them all a bill for advertising. But yeah, that's Truth Bookstore.
So what is the publishing company?
It was published by J. Stone Audio Books.
Oh, okay. Then you have a good day, both of you.
Thank you very much, Elaine.
Would you like to, I don't want to put you on the spot now, but is there any particular passage or sentiment out of the Mental Machine you'd like to share with our listeners? Maybe I'm asking for an electrifying Mojo reading here.
I'd be happy to do that. I'd like to read the first one, which is called Mothers in Black. And Mothers in Black was written right after the dream, the first dream that I'd had, and subsequently started writing. And it's pretty much about all of the mothers in black out there who've experienced a son being shot down. And if you notice sometimes when you walk the streets, when you walk downtown, I see fewer brothers downtown.
You really do.
I mean, carrying briefcases and suits. When I first came here in 1977, it looked as if downtown was littered. Now I see a few. There'll always be a few, but I see far too many walking and screaming at the wind and preaching to a church that's not there. So Mothers in Black was probably a combination of all of my subconscious collected experiences, and it came out in a dream. And it goes, there are a few less brothers on the streets every day. Like a flash of lightning, so quickly they pass this way. If you don't know it, the sisters do. Every single day there are fewer and fewer good brothers to talk to. They haven't all joined the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, or the Marines. They haven't all headed off to college to get that knowledge, sporting cross colors and big call connive jeans. Check your local funeral parlor, for the doors never stop swinging. Last night, 911 was off the hook. The phones just never stopped ringing. The sound of automatic gunfire was heard all over town. Now, another mother in black will leave the cemetery looking back at another child shot down. Another doo-wop group singing. It's so hard to say goodbye, but off to find the guys who shot him to make another mother cry.
And I want to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, he didn't miss a word, and he did not refer to the book. That came right off his head, off the Mental Machine itself. I was very impressed by that because, authors usually, we've got authors on the show before, and they have to always go back in the book and say, well, when I read this. So that is obviously not only a heartfelt sentiment, but something that you feel very, very strongly about.
Yeah, I'll read the next one.
Let's go to the phones quickly before we take the break and stay on the west side. Say hello to Rose. Rose, thank you so much for calling WCHP Radio. Jim McFarlin and Mojo with you. Hi.
Hi, Jim. Hi, Ghost Mojo. Remember me? I'm Rose Loki that has Katrina the Talking Cat. I used to talk to you when you were WGPR all the time.
Yes, how you doing, Rose?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good.
Good to hear from you.
I credit you with helping to make me and Katrina famous because Diane Hussey just loves you. I tried to call her so she could listen to you, but she's not at home. But she had a write-up about you in her column, and someone called me from the station and said you wanted me on your show, and when I told her, she just flipped, and she just started writing about me and Katrina and everything we ever did.
Well, that's wonderful.
And I credit you with getting it started. But I'm glad you got a book out. I heard you on you're still doing a music show, right?
Yeah.
Because I heard you the other night.
We can't talk about that here, though.
Oh,
Thanks,
We're
Mo.
not gonna mention
I appreciate you jumping in.
sorry about that.
Okay.
Bye.
Okay.
Rose, it's a pleasure.
Thank you, Rose.
Anytime. I want to know how many copies. Your first printing is how large?
We did 2,000 copies for the first one, and we've already reordered. And I got a call yesterday from my distributor, and they told me that Walden Books had just placed an order for 300 copies, and they had to be there Monday, so that wiped me out. So we're out.
Hey,
we're out of books already.
But you know, if you're going to be wiped out, that's the way to be wiped out.
Get wiped out by Walden's.
Now, you're going to go, I don't know if we mentioned this before or not, if I'm redundant, ladies and gentlemen, forgive me, but you're planning to embark on a coast-to-coast, a nationwide book signing tour on behalf of this.
Yeah, because the messages in the book, I think they're timely messages for what's happening in America at this time, what's happening in our communities, the violence, but not just the violence of the heart, the violence of the thoughts, the emotions, the disrespect, the poverty, the pestilence, the ignorance, and there are many situations out there that could cause one to come undone. But if we can't stay together, as a community, we can't stay together as a people. Mm-hmm. If we can't keep the same values that we started off this century with, if we can't seek to duplicate the molds of the great men and women who came before us, mm-hmm. who struggled so hard and who sacrificed so much that we would have a better life. If we can't live our lives without turning on those individuals, then, this is a very difficult time. And I think that we collectively, and those of us who are in position, we have to reach out and try to redirect some of the negativity in this community and try to reverse some of the adversity that people are feeling.
A man who not only says it, and says it from the heart, but has put his money and his thoughts where his mouth is, ladies and gentlemen. The Mental Machine. Callers on the line, please stay there. We'll be back to you right after this break. This is AM 1200 with the Electrifying Mojo and Jim McFARLIN on WCHB.
The voice of Detroit, WCHB.
Having that wisdom tooth pulled must have hurt, huh, Randy?
Not as much as the $300 it costs.
You want me to send the 300?
Yeah, but not by Western Union. They'll charge $29. Use money.
Rapidly approaching. I can help you make your plans. Call me Saturdays from 3:05 to 6 on WCHB, News Talk Radio AM 1200.
He'll be here at 3 o'clock, ladies and gentlemen. Right now, it's 1:53, 7 minutes before 2 o'clock on your choice for News Talk Radio, AM 1200 WCHB. I'm Jim McFARLIN. My guest in studio in this hour, the Electrifying Mojo, author of the new book, and doing very well, too, I understand, right?